All right, so get pumped up a little bit here. Hold on. All
Yeah,
right.
right. Do some push-ups real quick.
Shut up, Wes.
We could leave that in. We could-
Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of the Suited Kings podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. He is an MSPT champ, an MSPT Hall of Famer, and also a WSOP bracelet winner. Rich Alsup, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Happy to have you, man.
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
How's your day
Yeah,
going?
it's going great, man. A little sore from that round of golf we had yesterday, but
Oh,
it was worth it. A little chilly, but took a couple hours to warm up afterwards. But
yeah.
had a
To
great
uh
time.
to the listeners out there, Richie and I played a round of golf yesterday with a couple other buddies, and to the usual, we scooped them.
Too easy
Not for too much.
sometimes.
Not for too much. I'm just being, egotistical here. Usually it's the other way around. So, um, yeah, Richie, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. Wes and I are very happy to have you. I know a lot of people are looking forward to hearing this interview and kind of hearing your story through it all. I guess we'll start at the beginning here. How many years have you been playing poker for?
started, I started pretty young. Probably over 20 years, 20 plus years.
Somewhere around 20 years. And
Yeah.
we'll start here then. How did you get into poker?
So I got started really young, actually, kind of the same as a few of the other guys that have been on here. I started playing against the neighbor kid for our coin jars. We used to go over there and we'd play, 5 card draw, stud, or whatever. We'd end up staying up all night, just grinding over like a $5 coin jar. So that's kind of how it first started. And then, eventually, at the time I was working at True Green Chemlon, just like spraying yards and stuff like that or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was cool, but it was more cool playing cards at my buddy's house one night. We're like, "What are we gonna do tonight?" And we're like, "I don't know. Like, let's try poker out."
Let's
We-
gamble.
Yeah, yeah. So we started playing like $5 buy-ins. Next thing, they went up to like $20 buy-ins, and
Okay. How
yeah.
old were you around this time?
We were in high school at the time,
Okay. Okay.
so I was like 16, 17, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is probably around the moneymaker era.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Everyone was hype on that. We used to watch, the old DVDs on the World Poker Tour.
Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I grew up watching those as well. I think that was before Wes's time, though.
It was, although it is your story's a little relatable. I remember in high school, we did probably a similar level of buy-in, and then the summer before college, we did one big $50 buy-in, and it was like a huge deal. So
Yeah. Yeah, I
the
remember
times
the first
change, but
like $100 buy-in, and it was like, you get kind of like shaky at the table, like, 1,200 bucks for first place. So it was like it's big money to us back then, like in high school. So
Definitely, man. Absolutely, yeah, and on this podcast, I've talked about some of, hitting my first, $1,000 score, and I was just raging. It's a lot
right.
of money when you're that age, for sure, especially back, in the early 2000s, so
Yeah, definitely. So I mean it kind of started there and then eventually got on like the Canterbury grind. I probably spent most of my 20s just kind of grinding up at Canterbury, and then home
cash or
games.
tournaments?
I was always a limit player. I
Okay.
didn't really get into tournaments. I mean, I played them here and there, but like I took them seriously probably I think it was like 2015. Took a
Okay.
trip with Waz to Iowa, took second for 50K, and then I was like, wow, this is real. So I'm like, I'm gonna take this more seriously. And so, I've only been playing tournaments seriously probably like, about 7 years now. So
Okay.
Mhm.
I,
seven-
that surprised me. I honestly thought it was longer. Let's actually hang on that topic for a minute. So,
yeah,
2015, you and Waz are going to Iowa. This is Tama, Iowa MSPT stop, Meskwaki.
this was Meskwaki, yeah.
Okay, you got second for 50-ish K or so. To our listeners who aren't familiar, Rob Waz is another local legend, another great Minnesota player that Richie's very good friends with. They do a lot of traveling together. We'll get into some further stories about them later that, they've accomplished some crazy things together. But could you tell us about, like, how did you even meet Rob Waz?
Oh man. Um I think I met him at Turtle Lake back in the day. Like, I think you were like 18. It was like one of my first times playing No Limit, and like I'd show up, I'd put like $300 on the table. He'd have a mountain with like 5K. He would just be clowning on me, like, I'm gonna bust you up. You don't stand a chance in this
Hey,
game. Don't
Richie.
stop."
It's with that deep voice.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, years later, we started traveling together and became good friends, and it's been cool to have someone like that where we can always just like talk a hand right after the tournament, and like that's kind of like way I kind of just study, just like a lot of hand reviews and strategy and stuff.
I love that,
Mhm.
and it's always nice to have someone to, kind of help you for like, I definitely met some friends earlier in my tournament series or my tournament career that helped me, push my game or elevate my game, help motivate me to get better, you know what I mean? It seems like Waz was kinda that guy for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you have something you wanna say, Wes?
No, no. I mean, there are a couple different things about both WAS and the transition to tournaments. So I was gonna ask, as far as your transition over to tournaments, like, would you say these days you lean more in that direction, or do you still play a decent amount of cash?
I play way less cash, but for me, I got to do both. Like when I go play a tournament, I'm always looking to get that day off so I can go play Pot Limit Omaha on the day off. Because for me, the buy-ins add up, and you go on these trips. Like I don't understand how some of these guys like who can go out and just play tournaments. I mean, you got to be good to just be able to handle the swings of just tournaments. So for me, it's like I go play cash on the side, and most of the time I find myself breaking even on the buy-ins, and then go for the score in the big tournament. So essentially I'm looking for the big scores in the tournament, and then the cash games kind of provide me that extra fun to just kind of free roll at them.
I feel like I hear that a lot from players that do mix cash and tournaments that, cash is kind of their bankroll fluffer, for a lack of better word. It helps to keep them afloat, with all the travel expenses and stuff like that, even though they don't play that strictly.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. I'm looking over your Hendon mob here. Obviously, you played some smaller tournaments and stuff back in the day. I do see, as you said, 2015 was like your breakout year where looks like in 2015 you grossed 194K in earnings, which is awesome. The year before that was
Yeah,
$14,000. So,
right, right.
so, so clearly there's a big step there. So you were playing cash at Canterbury, and then probably Aces when that opened up too. What kind of games were you playing cash previous to 2015?
um I started off blue chip 2-4, worked up to 3-6, then 4-8. I remember my first time jumping on an 816 table, and I was just shaking, just like this game is huge, and like the chips are flying, the swing, so I just kind of worked my way up the ranks, and back then it was 1530, not 2040, so it's kind of easy to jump 816, 1530, 3060, so I always played I was always a limit player, so that, and that transition from limit to no limit, it's tough, and it's tough for a lot of players, even from just cash game to tournament. It's like a different way of thinking, a different way of playing. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
changes.
So, quick question about that. Talk a little bit about how your perception of the money changed over time as you moved up stakes.
It just kind of I was always the type of player that like I was I had no fear, I'd risk it all. So during my 20s I went broke like a lot.
Mhm.
But it I guess it was just different. Like once you get kind of like a big tournament score, that's like a big fluffer, and you kind of just feel really comfortable. And then like eventually, I kind of learned bankroll management, and it took a lot of time, but like over the years you kind of just like figure it out.
I think you and I relate a lot in that way. I also, had some scores earlier in my life to which I didn't know how to move forward, so I just kind of blasted off with them. And it wasn't until my late 20s, early 30s till I really started learning the importance of not only bankroll management but investing and stuff. We'll get it more into that later, I guess. But I just kind of wanted to ask another question regarding, starting off cash before tournaments. I know a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a few people have told me that, Mike Schneider, he's a Minnesota Hall of Famer. I'm sure you play with him a ton. I remember he once told me that playing limit poker gives players who transition to tournaments a huge edge because of the amount of showdowns they get to see compared to no limit games. Do you find that true? Do you think that's helped your game?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that on your pod before too, and I couldn't agree more. Like just getting to showdown and just seeing the hand play out all the way, that's definitely relatable, and I think that's true.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty sick. And now, you still playing Cash at Canterbury?
I did play 40-80 last night. I prefer the Omaha though. It's like once you look at 4 or 5 cards, it's hard to go back and like just look at two. And I played a lot of limits, so I'm kind of bored of that.
Okay.
I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like in Parliament Omaha, there's like a big edge. Even though equities kind of run a lot closer, like, if you get it in really good, you can really have like a big edge against a lot of players. And then like a lot of the times you get it in and if you can run it twice, you're free rolling at half. I find the swings, people think it's a really swingy game, but for me it's a lot less swingy for some
Do you
reason.
do you think there's a strategy? So I'm actually a PLO fish myself. Wes is admittedly one as
I
well.
probably
I
am
mean,
for
we
sure.
both
Yeah.
play PLO, don't get me wrong. Definitely not to the amount or, quality that you play it. I'm curious, do you think it's a game that benefits from playing maybe a bit more patient compared to aggressively in terms of players? Because I mean, it seems like in a game like 5-100 at Running Aces, again, for those listeners who aren't familiar, these are two local casinos, Canterbury and Aces. But playing in these, PLO games, do you think it benefits you to start playing at a more patient strategy or a more aggressive strategy?
Well, you want to play aggressive, but you want to play the good hands aggressive.
Okay,
For
gotcha.
example, like if you have a hand that's really connected, like the 9 jack, queen, king, and you got a suit or two, like I'm just looking to get money in there, whether it's a
Okay.
limp back raise or just pump it up. But if you're putting it in with like cheese ball hand, you're just toast, like. So for me, it's all about good starting hands and building the pots.
Okay. Okay.
I imagine that, and yeah, like Max said, I don't play a lot of Omaha. I imagine that this is the sort of game where there is not a lot of folding and people can get very sticky, both because, you know, you do have the 4 cards, and then also because there's the $100 limit. So, if the pot is a few hundred, you can't really
Everybody's
price
giving
anyone
big
out of a
odds.
draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a lot about pushing your equity when you have it.
Yeah, I mean, players get really sticky, and a lot of times they're playing 2 or 3 cards, and I'm playing 4 or 5, depending
Yeah.
on if we're playing 5 card out in Florida. So it's like I just look at it, like there's a huge edge because players will play like a gut shot or just a straight draw against you, and like I got like nut flush draw, the same straight draw, and like something else. So
We're not
um,
going to stick on PLO strategy
yeah,
too much here, but I do have one more kind of question regarding that. Say, one thing you'll probably run into a lot is say you flop, middle top set on a flush draw board, like 2 heart board or something like that. And then, the river completes the flush here. You're getting 8-1 on the river and your opponent, bets max on the river. Are you just folding sets here?
a lot of the time I will. I'm a
Yeah.
field player. Like I don't care if I'm getting 20-1 odds. Like if I know I'm beat, like I know I'm beat, and that just comes
And
with my
I feel
field
like, I
skill.
mean, and I feel like I know the answer to that, or it's kind of a rhetorical question in a sense, but like I feel like a lot of players will benefit from knowing that and save money in the long run, which is kind of why I asked it. Because a lot of people are just like, I just can't fold here because of the odds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a lot different. Like if you're playing limit, you might be getting 15-1 and you're almost certain you're beat. Like you just got to kind of pay it off because you only have to be right, one in, 15, 20 times a lot of time to be right there. So there's a lot of more paying off hands and limit
Mhm.
Gotcha.
than pot limit.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And for the record, middle set and pot limit Omaha is where I've lost the most money. So a
That's
little
it.
pointer, try and stay away from like little pairs and PLO. I mean, you can win pots too, but just play them really cautiously.
We want the suited and connector type hands that are up in the upper range of hands, like you said, the 8,
Not
9, 10 jacks, the anything like that, double suited, single suited, things like that.
when you say suited, you want the nut suited because
Okay.
you don't want to get king high flush and then you can't fold it. I mean, it's good sometimes, but you got to just play those hands cautiously.
I love to hear that.
Mhm.
Well, let's another question kind of moving on from the PLO and the cash games. Did you ever play online at all?
I've only played probably a handful of times after Black Friday. Like
Okay.
that was kind of the end for me, to be honest. And you guys are probably too or a little bit too young for this. You might not be, Max, but
God
I
damn
don't know if
it.
you yeah, I don't know. You're
Richie,
younger
how
than
old
me.
are you actually?
I just turned 40.
Okay.
Happy birthday. Happy
Yeah.
belated
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah, thanks. My girl actually threw a surprise birthday party for me, so we went out to dinner, and I came home, and there were 30 people in my kitchen. Almost gave me a heart attack.
That's a
Nice.
lot, but it sounds like a good
Yeah,
time, man.
it
That's
was it
awesome.
was a fun night. We'll put it that way.
Cool. Yeah, I think, Wes, you're 18, 19?
29, but
29. Okay, all right. Yeah, but what I was saying was back in the day, you used to get like these net teller cards. I don't know if you remember those, Max,
Is that
but
an internet card?
it was like a check card, but it's
I
not connected to your bank or anything. You would just get like you'd get a net teller card, and back then, like online was like free money on these sites like PokerStars and Full
yeah,
Tilt,
yeah, yeah.
and like you could just go to the ATM, pull out 2,000 cash out of your net teller account, and then so those were like the heydays, and like those days are over. But like I think Black Friday was the last day that I played like that.
Okay, okay, so that's quite some time. For those that aren't familiar with Black Friday, I believe it was April 2011?
yep.
Yeah, something like that. So a
Yeah,
net teller card is essentially a prepaid Visa or something like that.
yeah, it was like that. But I mean, I really haven't played online since then. For me, it's just too time consuming. I play enough live, and I prefer to play with like live
Yeah.
poker. I just enjoy it better.
And
Gotcha.
you're a dad too, right?
Yeah, yeah. My son's almost 2, so I tried a couple sessions online, and the kiddos screaming or got it's almost impossible. It's just too distracting. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's awesome, man. I do look forward myself to becoming a father within the next couple of years here. So I might holler at you for some advice on that. Later in this podcast, I actually have some questions regarding poker and life balance now that you got a family building. So we'll get into that. Kind of the last questions I have personally on, the getting into poker. Besides Waz, did you have any other influences that helped, inspire your game?
Carl for sure. Crazy Carl.
Crazy Carl, how do you pronounce it? Caradenudo? Is that right?
Caravenuto, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are I know you guys have been good friends. You wanna talk about Crazy Car a little bit? Maybe some of the I know you guys have been heads up a couple times in a couple tournaments.
Yeah, for sure. Carl and I mean, he used to come to our little $20 home games like back in the day, and he would just dust it off. He was like our fish. So like, but I mean, we've been friends for 20 plus years, and
I didn't know that. That's a long time. I'm friends with
yeah,
Carl as well now. He's a great dude, though.
he's a great dude. Yeah, and like I've acquired a lot of skill just from playing heads up matches against him. I probably played over 1,000 heads up matches against Carl, and it started off $20, and we played some higher stakes stuff recently, but I feel like heads up play is so important because in a tournament, when you get down to 1 and 2, the difference between second place and first place money, it's like a whole nother tournament. So
Mhm.
That's where the money's at, and also
I-
people have the least amount of experience in those points.
who plays heads up? How you got to get down to that spot. Like who's playing heads up on the side of it? So heads up is huge. If you ever get down there and you want to know what to do heads up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richie, so we brought it up briefly, but in 2022, you won a World Series bracelet. And I heard a story about that, and I would just want to confirm it with you. So, from what I heard, you had been there pretty much the whole summer with Rob Wazwaz, and you were actually about to leave Vegas before playing this event, weren't you?
Yeah, I was on the fence because I wasn't having the greatest summer. I was stuck a little bit, nothing crazy, but like I was kind of on the fence. And then Rob always pushes me. He's like, "You're too good. You got to just stay. Like you could get that score on the next one and get it all back." So he's always like pushing me to
Yeah,
play. It's always a fine line because like I'm a believer in quality over quantity. So if I'm ready to
Agreed,
go, like I'm
100%.
just like time to get out of here. But like how often does the WSOP come around?
yep.
Yeah.
So we were actually having breakfast um the day of the tournament, and I was planning on playing the Mystery Millions over at the Win. Like I was set on it. You couldn't convince me otherwise. And like
Mhm.
he was just hounding me for it. So like I gotta thank Rob for that. He's like, "How cool would it be if you shipped this one?" And I shipped it. And then like I was like, all right, screw it. I'm gonna go play it. So went and played it, and then I mean did a little sun run, and yeah, it was pretty epic.
'Cause
It
he
was
had already won a WSOP bracelet almost was it the same event earlier in the
Yeah,
same year?
the same exact event. They hold the 800 deep stack twice a year. He won the first one, and it was kind of funny because we do a little swap, like a five ball in these tournaments. So he had
Yep.
I had a check that he had wrote me for it. I forget what it was. It was like 20 some thousand or something like that.
Yeah.
And I hadn't cashed the check. It was just kind of sitting there. And then I played the tournament and shipped it. And he's like, Rich, you better rip up that check. He's like, I'm right now.
That's awesome.
That might be one of the
Yeah.
most legendary stories of the WSOP. Two roommates shipping the two. I mean, here's the thing: those $800 events are insane fields. I mean, you're thousands of players in there.
Do you remember
Yeah.
how many runners there were in that tournament?
His was bigger. Mine had just over 2000 something, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big
I
tournament.
mean, that's insane. It's crazy.
And
Yeah.
it is legendary. You guys room together and both win bracelets in basically the same event. Talk about the last few tables or maybe just the final table of that tournament. Did that feel any different than other tournaments?
Well, that one, I mean, it's got a pretty fast structure. So you make day 2, I think they play down to like 5% or 8%.
Yep.
And I didn't have a huge stack, but I'd have hands and I was just catching punts. Like they just didn't, I'd 3-bet someone, they'd just be like, oh, I don't believe you. And they just ship on me. And I'd have queens and it would hold. And I remember we got down to like 13 players or so.
Yeah.
I was right at the top of the chip lead, like with this other guy. And we got involved in a hand. We were like, 6-handed on one table, maybe 7 on the other. And he raised the button. I had the 6-7. It was like a min click. So I called, and the flop came Jack 6 deuce.
Okay. It's a
Okay.
dry board.
Yeah, dry board. So I'm kind of liking it, but I'm like, how do I want to play this? Do I want to play it fast, slow?
Yeah.
I knuckle, he bets. I decide to just flat.
Okay. I think that's
So-
fair considering you both are two of the biggest stacks left. Yeah.
Yeah, like generally in a tournament at that point, like you don't really want to tango with another one of the chip leaders. It's just kind of an unwritten rule.
Yep. Yeah.
But anyway, so the 6 peels off on the turn.
Ooh.
So I'm licking my chops. I'm like, oh yes. I'm like, I got this guy if he has anything.
Please have aces. Please have aces.
I know, right? So I knuckle and he hammers it. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, do I check raise? I'm like, what is he gonna call with? I'm like, I'm just gonna either let him keep bluffing off, or like it's kind of one of those spots where he has it or he has nothing.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
I decide to just flat.
Okay. I like it. Keep his bluffs in.
Yeah. So the deuce hits on the river.
Okay.
I
So
got
you're
6.
voted.
So just
got
in case he had like A6 or king, now you're
Yeah.
chopping with the 6s you were losing.
And you're
to.
beating everything else except for pocket
Yeah.
aces.
So
somehow.
here's where it gets interesting. I knuckle. He whales the river almost all in. It was like a 6 million bet. I had like 8 million behind or something like that.
Okay.
And I'm like, I went kind of into the tank and I'm like, I think this guy might have jacks. I was like, I just can't fold. I literally wanted to fold the hand, like just the way I felt about the hand. And I was like, I decided to just call him and not ship it back.
Okay.
And he rolls over 2 jacks.
Oh, he did. And
Wow.
also, let me repeat. I said you only lost to deuces and jacks.
And jacks. And I guess Jack 6.
Yeah. So
he should have jack 6, but yeah.
I went from like the very top to the very bottom. I was the shortest in chip stack. And then immediately after break time, dinner break. It was just dinner break. So it was kind of a blessing that dinner break came, because a lot of players kind of steam it off, or not, I had some time to go, think about what happened and regroup. So I came back after dinner break with like 10 big blinds. Now I'm in a sticky spot where I'm like, I just picking up the blinds, like huge. It's like survival. Anyways, I kind of just grind, get to the final table, and I'm the shortest stack there. So I sat down at the table, and I just had my son at the time. He was like 2 months old.
Okay.
And I carried one of his shoes with me. Just in case I get to a final table, I can use it as a card protector. Never done anything like that. I didn't put it down the entire series. I was just saving it for a final table.
I love
I
that.
sat it down and I said, "You guys don't stand a chance. I got new baby run good." I'm like, "Look out." Everyone kind of laughed. Haha. So, and then, next thing you know, I was like, chipped up a little bit. Players were busting. And there was one guy, he was I think he was from Australia, or he was somewhere. I forget exactly where he was from. But I'm like, if I can get heads up against this guy, I'm gonna beat him. Like Ari Engel was at the table, and a few other guys were really good. I kind
Ari
of
was
just
at that final table?
yeah, Ari was there. Yeah,
That's a tough opponent to have at your final table.
yeah, it was a tough final table, but anyways, the stars kind of aligned, and like next thing you know, I got heads up, and then battled it out against this guy. Probably one of the longest heads up matches. You know, like there was another final table playing next to us, and like the table was all done, and I was playing heads up from probably 2 hours after the
Wow.
fact, and yeah, it was.
How deep were you guys?
You
Heads
know,
up when you're heads up.
um,
I mean, you don't have to say it specifically, but did it seem? I'm curious how deep a tournament like the 800 would be.
I think we were around like 40 or 50 bigs each,
Oh,
something like that. So it wasn't.
that's a fun heads up match then.
It might have been a little bit less. It was
Okay.
it was low to the point where my strategy was like pretty much a pure limp strategy.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he followed suit, and I was like, I could beat this guy because I know I can outplay him post flop. Plus, he was sucking beers back kind of like crazy. So I'm
Are you kidding me? Heads up for a bracelet?
yeah,
Oh,
dude, he
Oh,
was he was
no.
pounding beers. So I'm like, if I can get this to last as long as possible, let those beers kick in a little bit, and it's one of those things that just kind of
what?
Yeah.
place.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good point on your strategy too. Like when you are in a spot like that heads up against someone who you think you have a pretty big edge over, playing the small ball strategy. I know Daniel Negreanu has talked about that, but small ball where you're not getting all your chips in willy-nilly.
Well,
You're
pre-flop specifically, because you can definitely outplay opponents on so many different boards because you just know how to play those boards better than they do.
yeah.
Limping is pimping.
Pimpin' is pimpin'. I love that. And before we move on from that, I'm curious. I know, remember how you said you'd get super nervous when you first played the 816 game? Did you experience that at all going into the final table, going into heads up, or were you kind of in that flow state of just ready to roll and ready to crush souls?
It's funny you ask that because I'll get more nervous on day ones than I will in those spots, just because
Mhm.
like I want to make it to that day. I want to get in that position. And then I kind of just like find that state of flow or that zone where I just feel so comfortable, and I can just almost like it feels like I have a sixth sense. I just feel really comfortable now, like when I'm deep in tournaments, which
Yeah.
it took a while, but I don't get nervous. I get less nervous the deeper I get. I'm more focused and dialed
I've
in
I
than
yeah.
anything.
I find that relatable.
It's
That's the
100%
exact same.
Yeah,
relatable,
I
and
can see that.
I'm glad that you had mentioned or that you had kind of felt the same way because I think it's as recent as our last episode. It's like we talk about mindsets that will help you improve your game, and I feel the same way when I'm early in a tournament. Like I sit down, I get a little, I got to find my zone, my flow state. But once I'm deep, like if I'm at an MSPT final table or something like that, maybe my first one I might have been nervous. I don't remember, but I mean, especially nowadays, like I'm just dialed in, I'm focused, ready to do whatever I need to do to try and win that tournament. And I think that a lot of people will kind of end up being that same way. So if you're not really confident or that you will feel that way, it will come.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Appreciate you explaining or talking about that WSOP run. Wes and I are looking to acquire a couple of those golden bracelets ourselves this summer.
Yeah.
I'd love
One
to
more
see it.
one more question on that. Would you say that is of your whole poker career, is that your high point? Is there another thing that you would consider a high point?
That's probably the highest point. I mean, winning a bracelet's one of the coolest things. But before that, there were a few accomplishments that were pretty awesome. The first win in Meskwaki, which came right after the 50K, so I took second and then first. That was my biggest at the time. And then after that, probably going to Colorado on a whim with Carl. I just called him up like morning of. I'm like, let's just get out there and play. It's like I think it was day 1B, and I'm like, let's just go. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And then we ended up going 1 and 2 out there.
That's
So
so
That's pretty
sick.
cool.
I mean, that's the dream to get
Max
heads up.
and Dave they went 3-4 last year.
Yeah,
heard
we,
about
we were
that.
1, 2 in chips, but win 3 and 4. Gagne and I. Did you know that?
Yeah, I was sweating that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I've said this before, but like I had almost half the chips and played four-handed. Homeboy brought up the opportunities, and I just straight up shot it down and then went out forward.
All right. It happens, man. It happens.
Yeah, no, it does, but now, it is what it is, and you kind of learn from those kind of experiences. So,
Definitely.
um, what are you going to be playing a full schedule this year at the World Series?
I got a couple of weddings planned, so it's gonna be tough to do a full schedule, but I'm gonna come in kind of hot. I'm gonna definitely play the mystery bounty, and there's a 5K PLO that I want to play. Really, anything PLO that I can play, I'm gonna play. And then the shootout is kind of a must for me. Yeah,
Yes.
I heard your guys talk with the shootout. I know you're gonna play the gladiator.
Yeah, Wes would miss the
Yeah,
Yeah.
gladiator
Wes
if
is
his
gonna
life
ship that
depended on
gladiator, man. I could see a deep run coming for you.
Yeah.
it.
My
Yeah.
plan is to get second this year and then first
Yeah,
next year so I can go 3, 2, 1.
I listened to the pod. I heard.
Yeah. I don't think that should be an issue.
Rich,
Right.
I just wanted to share a quick story with our listeners. That a special moment for me, as you know, I think I'd mentioned this, but you were someone I looked up to as I was becoming a better poker player. I don't remember the first time you and I. Actually, I kind of remember. I don't remember the very first time we met, but I remember one time at the very beginning of when you and I met. It was the World Series of Poker, maybe 2017 or somewhere in that area, where I took the morning before a tournament and went into the spa and I saw you in there. And you're like, well, you said something really nice. You're like, oh, just another crusher or something like that. And that was super inspiring to me. Do you remember seeing me in that spot ever?
I do, yeah, because that was part of my routine. Go hit the spa and then
Yeah, that was at
go.
the Rio.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the following year, I went and played. It was 2018. I went and played my first WSOP main event, and so I don't remember if I was staying by myself or what at that point, but I begged day one C of the main event, and then I think there was a day off between ours and because day B and A I think had day two, so we got a day off before day
yeah,
C2 or whatever.
right.
And then you and Waz invited me out to dinner at Ruth Chris's Steakhouse. It was a super awesome memory for me. I remember you guys had fully treated me to a really nice dinner at the steakhouse there on the strip. You're like, just order whatever you want. And we ended up getting piles of stuff. We got whatever, crab legs, lobster, steaks, drinks. Ended up being a really special moment for me. I just wanted to share that and the gratitude I had for that moment.
Yeah, of course, man. Those were good times, that I look back on, so that was fun.
Do you have, besides, running, winning a WSOP bracelet, what kind of do you have any like memorable poker stories that resonate with you from either cash games or tournaments or maybe, run-ins with other players, celebrity poker players, anything that sparks a thought in your head?
There's one story. So, do you remember? Were you at the WSOP when all like the earthquakes and all that happened?
I remember that. I was not actually playing when that happened. No, I was actually back at home.
Okay, yeah. So, like, I don't know. It was an interesting day. Like, the earthquake happened at the Rio. They had that guy that like took his pants off at the table and then threw a shoe at the dealer.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Was that
was I was at
2019 or something?
It was something like that, yeah, but I was at the table next to him, so, like, I got to see, like, this whole thing, like, unfold, and then, like, I don't know, just, like, crazy stuff like that, I played with a few celebrities, like, I played with Nelly a few times, Bruce
That's
Buffalo.
that.
Yeah, he'd always call you, he would just pay it off and say, "Nice hand, playboy."
Playboy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, but you have one MSPT win, a couple runner-ups. I've noticed a bunch of final tables.
Yep.
I mean, being a Hall of Famer, you kind of expect all those awesome results. But you and I both have won the same MSPT. It was Meskwaki.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, I'm
I missed
sad
that stop.
sad to see that one go. I mean, it was kind of a hole in the wall stop, but,
Definitely.
it was one of my favorite ones too at the
Yeah, I
same.
mean, 4 hours away from Minneapolis. It was a great time. We had a lot of fun with that. Wes, I would like to get into the nitty-gritty here a bit. We should talk about what kind of things you do to motivate yourself to play, what kind of studying you do, if any. Like, you got any start off questions for that, Wes?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you do to get better at poker?
I watch a lot of Poker Go, like reviewing stuff like that. I know Upswing has some really good courses. Shout out to Mike Brady over there. At
Okay.
Upswing. He was one of the guys I met when I moved to San Diego. It was kind of nice to meet those guys. Like they kind of opened me with open arms. I didn't know anyone. Like it's like Ben Moon introduced me to Brady and some of those guys, and like we started like golfing and frisbee golfing and like doing all that. But anyways, I'm getting kind of off topic here.
That's all right.
But yeah, for studying, I mean, I write down a lot of hands like during the tournament, and then afterwards, I like to kind of just review them, and like Waz will do like the same thing with me. What would you do in this spot? And it's funny because we'll go through the hands. What would you raise here? And it's almost the exact same bet size and everything, like the same time, you know. And sometimes I'll realize, oh, maybe I made a mistake, bet too small here, and you know, you just kind of make adjustments. And yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. I know, and especially when you guys hang out and run hands by each other a lot, you tend to kind of build similar styles of play. I know Wes and I definitely, when we talk hands, we'll often run into betting the same. Don't look at me like that, Wes. No, we'll end up oftentimes, betting the exact. I'll be like, "What did I bet here?" And he'll just guess it right on the point. You know what I mean? So, um, the people you talk poker with the most, you kind of guys you start to build similar styles. So that's cool to hear
And
between you and
and
Wes.
it's interesting because I don't even think of us as similar styles, but you're right that like when we talk about stuff, it's 90 something percent of the time it's very close.
Yeah. So
Do you, Richie, do you use any sort of tools? Like, do you run hands in any sort of solvers? Do you look at charts, or is it mostly videos, watching top players play and talking with guys like Waz?
I've done a bit of that, and I got a few guys I can kind of reach out to, kind of like maybe Max does to you, like, hey, you got to look at this hand up in the sim, you
Mhm.
know. But honestly, a lot of my studying has just been like experimenting at the table and just like playing, you know. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah, and like just playing. That's an experience.
I love that, man. You just bring it to the streets too, and I mean, and you're such an incredible player. I mean, we have some of our listeners like that we have in our Discord channel have some questions, that look up to. We'll kind of follow up on those questions a little bit later here, but um, yeah, from my standpoint, I see you as like a big time field player, but you don't blunder. Like I see you always able to if you feel like you've made a mistake, you're always able to recover quickly from that and just move forward from that. What kind of process do you have when playing in a tournament do you do to recover from, say, if you feel like you made a mistake, or even if you didn't make a mistake but lost a big pot? Do you have anything that you kind of run through your head to help put you into the right mind state to move forward from there?
One thing I'll do, like if I notice I'm maybe playing bad or making a mistake, is just I kind of just lock it up, like just tighten up, regroup, and kind of like go from there. I don't really have like a special like plan or anything I do before. I'm just always excited to go play, and I just play, you know.
Yeah, and I've seen some gangster shit from you, man. I very much look up to your style of playing, and that's one thing that's beautiful about poker too, is that you can have two totally different types of play style. Whereas like a solver based style or a field based style, and either can be correct in the moment, depend. You know what I mean? Um, I guess that kind of leads into a reoccurring question we have on our podcast.
Yeah. So, what do you think, Richie? Is poker more of a science or an art?
I saw this question coming, and originally, like my thought was like, for sure an art form. That's what it is. But then like I started thinking about it a little bit more, and I'm like, what do you mean by that? What is science? It's kind of like, a systematic um type of study or experiment. Like science is just like a big experiment, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So like I kind of look at it as like a big science experiment. You're always trying out new things, but based on that, like you turn it into an art form. So I do feel like it's a little bit of both for sure.
Okay,
I
interesting. And I've, since we started asking this, I know I've thought more about it.
Same,
And
same.
what I've realized is I guess, my answer is a little bit more science, but a lot of that is because I think a lot of things in poker that seem like a form of art, if you dig much deeper into them, there's like a scientific process and then there's a scientific reason to why it works. So even if you are at the table and you pick up something on your opponent and make a huge deviation from what you would normally do, that
That's
might
the
feel
art.
like an art, but scientifically there's something you noticed, and then there's a logical reason for why you took the action you
Okay.
did. So if you dig deep, it, you know, maybe it's a bit of just semantics, but
I love how, as we will continue to ask this question, our thought on the topic will continuously evolve. You know what I mean? Like I've
Mhm.
thought about this too as we've been asking over and over. And right now I'm kind of at the thought process where poker is it has a scientific foundation, and how you use that science is the art.
Mhm.
So, you know what I mean? Like, like you said, if you're making big deviations, I understand you say it can be a science, but each player is going to do it differently, which is how their creative process is.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I view it from that point. Any last inputs on that, Rich?
Well put, I mean, it's an interesting question, and it's like poker's just kind of like it's like a guessing game, You get chips, you get cards. There's a science to it, and it's also like an art form, like what is Ben Wing's style of play? What do you think?
Aggressive, and
Yeah,
definitely
right,
feels. I
right.
would say it's big time feel aggressive.
It's an art form, but at the same time, it's like it was a science experiment because, everything he was doing was kinda, like, new to the game and different, so that's kinda, like, has a science
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of aligns with how you were explaining your game work too. You made a bunch of, you were testing theories and testing different kinds of plays, and then you kind of aligned or built a foundation out of what worked for you, and then you moved forward from there.
For sure, and I'll tell you one thing I do, which most a lot of players don't do. If I'm, like, playing and you asked me before, like, "Do you do anything different?" So, like, if things aren't working for me and they're not clicking, I might just stop raising. I might just start limping. I'll just, like, start limping like crazy. I saw a guy do it in the 25K in the Bahamas, and, like, he was just getting crushed, and he was, like, a great player. All of a sudden, he's like, "I'm just gonna start limping." He just switched to a limp strategy, and, like, next thing you know, he was just, like, crushing. And there's something to be said to that because then you get to see a lot more hands post flop, and if someone might not three bet you off a hand.
I
Um,
love that. Being able to adjust your strategy to an extreme like that is something you don't see too often. People are just continuously doing what they're doing, or just start folding. You know, what I mean, they won't 100% or 180 on their strategy and start limping. It's not something you see often, which I think there might be something said to how that could throw your opponents off.
for sure, definitely. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm sorry if you could hear that siren in my background. I actually have two follow-up questions with that. The first question is, this is kind of staying on mindset, or like improving your mindset and stuff like that. When you hit kind of big scores or hit scores in general, what kind of things are important to you to make sure that you sustain your bankroll, or improve on yourself and work on your future with that?
So after like a big score, like some players will take it where they just and then they can keep like the sun run going, and like I'd encourage that if you can do that. But also some players will just kind of like after a big score, they'll just get extra kind of dusty. So like I would just consider taking a break after a big score sometimes, or it's important to like, do other things with your money, like maybe throw some in an investment and don't touch it, just keep it. Like whenever I get a big score, I'm looking to put some aside, whether it's in the market or, a 529 plan for my son or whatever it may be, just putting some money on the side. Okay, so now my mortgage is taken for a while. Just like having good bankroll management is really key because you don't see a lot of players around anymore that like some of these guys that were around before. You just don't see them anymore
Mhm.
That
because
happens a lot for sure.
it's a hard game to beat in general, and you got to beat the rake. You got to if you're playing tournaments, there's travel expenses and taxes. They're not really set up fair for the poker player, and after all that considered, you see a lot of guys kind of falling off. You really have to stay on top of your game and play really well, and most importantly, be smart with your money after a big score or just in general.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point, and we haven't talked too much about it on here. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who have massive scores, even multiple of them, where they may just be not in that great of a situation. It's hard for anyone to really know looking from the outside. But in poker, you get to see a lot more of the big successes that people have and not so much of the downswings,
Yeah.
just how tournament results are made public, but not the overall amount of buy-ins someone's used. And so I think that's really a great way to look at it, and great for people who maybe haven't had that big score yet to, when they hear you say that, think about what they will do if they have that score.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, and including you and I talked about this earlier in this episode, Rich. It's like you need to we failed to do this earlier in our career, but as we've done it, as we've grown as people, we've seen drastic changes in our lives to where we have a little bit more freedom, and it's not only in our mindset, but just financially for our family and stuff like that. So I think if anyone's listening right now, take this into consideration big time, even if you have or haven't hit a score, and keep it in mind because it's a very important thing to do.
Yeah, well said.
So I forgot what my second question was
That's
that I
okay.
was going to follow that up with. But another important topic that I brought up on this podcast, now that I'm married and getting ready to start a family, and I know a lot of people that listen to this are already married, already have families, might even be in their later stages of their life, so they might have already experienced this. But to the newer people, um, the younger crowd, what kind of things do you do now that you're? Because are you married? You're married, right?
I am, yeah.
You're married, you have a kid. What kind of things do you do to balance, family and poker life?
That's very important, you know, and a lot of people say you gotta find balance, and I always say you don't find balance, you create balance.
I like
So,
that.
yeah,
That's awesome.
right? So it's like, when I'm done playing, I'm done playing, and you gotta, like, find that happy median because 'cause I'm always craving to get back in the game. I'm jonesing to go stack those chips, look down at 2 aces, and travel, and it's exciting, you know? But, when I'm not playing, I like to just, I spend a lot of time with my family. I like to work out and play sports and golf a lot, so
Yeah.
it's important to find that and to do that, not just always when I was younger, I would just, wake up, go play poker. When I'm sleeping, I'm thinking about dreaming about poker. When you're younger, you got that, you know what I mean? But if I can teach anything to the young kids, I wanna do that. So if there's anyone listening that ever wants to come review a hand or say hi, don't be shy.
That's awesome, Rich. You've
Come
always
say
been
what's up
awesome with
with me.
that stuff. And what I've extracted from what you said there is one thing that they should kind of consider is discipline of their, they need to prioritize what's most important in their life and then be honest with themselves. For example, family, like this is my number one, poker is my number two or three or four, whatever it might be for you. But make sure to prioritize what's important and put those things correctly in order and allocate the time to those things in that order.
Definitely, definitely.
So I think that'll be a great place. Wes, any other questions on that,
Um,
Mr. Fan?
yeah, not on that. One other question I had was we had talked about your high points and whatnot. Talk about one of your low points in poker, whether that be financial standpoint or just mentally how you felt.
It's been a long time, because I've been in a comfortable spot, for a long time now. But when I was younger, going broke, I mean, poker's one of those games where like the highs are high and the lows are low. So like
Mhm.
if you can't handle that mentally, like, I'd always consider doing something else and just keeping poker part-time. Like I wouldn't recommend like, "Hey, go play poker for a living," it's awesome. And it is awesome, but at the same time, like, losing is part of the game. So you have to accept that. It's a strong part of the game. You lose hands all the time, you have losing sessions, and it doesn't feel good when you lose, you know? No one
Right.
no one likes to lose, but at the same time, like, when you win, like, what it does for your mental health and, like, the way it makes you feel after that big score, like, it's addicting, you know?
It
So
can be dangerous. Yeah.
it'd be dangerous, yeah. So, like, I would just say, like, if you're gonna take it seriously, like, take it seriously like you guys are, and, like, give it your all and, be smart. Game selection is huge. Bankroll management is huge. Um, the people you hang around with is huge. There's
Yep.
a lot of amazing people, like, in poker. The people you meet from all different aspects of life, and, it's a beautiful thing, but, there's also bad people in poker. I used to lend out money all the time and not get it paid back, or there's scam. I got cheated once in the game. That's kind of on like a side note. I'll tell you guys the story real quick.
Love to hear it.
Yeah,
Not love
so
to hear it, but would love to hear the
yeah.
story.
Well, I was young at the time. I was probably like 22 or something like that, and got invited to this home game, and they pulled the old dealer change, switch the deck, do the fake cut, so the deck is kind of set up. and I got dealt the 9-10 of hearts. These guys know I'm never folding the 9-10 of hearts. It
Yep.
was like limp pot, and the guy limped pocket tens, and then the flop came 9-10 deuce.
Oh
And
yeah.
after the fact, I was just like, I just knew just by the way they reacted. You can kind of just sense it as a poker player.
Especially as
Mm.
an intuitive player such as yourself.
Yeah, so you got to be careful out there. There's people that are not good and there's people that are good. So I would just say surround yourself with high quality people, and
Yeah.
you know that's very
A-
important.
And have strong game selection. Be careful about who you're going to these home games and playing with.
For sure, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've played in some amazing home games and love the home game scene, but you know, also bad things can happen. So
Yeah.
just be careful out there.
There was so much in that answer you gave that I liked. I think the fact that you said, for a long time you've just been in a good place. It really goes to show that you've been doing the right things over the years, both, with your life, with poker, with your bankroll. Because now it sounds like you're in a spot where you're never you never need to win. Obviously you can't afford to just lose forever, right? But you're never in a spot where you feel like you need to go play to get yourself out of a downswing quickly. You have a lot of balance in life. And poker doesn't stress, it's not a stressful thing for you, at least in the way that it could be when you're starting out or when you have less of a bankroll. Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's easy to hear Rich talk about poker, especially about where he's at now, and then kind of reflect on what we had talked about in a previous episode, where it's like if you bust a tournament, he has the right mindset, right?
yeah.
If he busts a tournament, it's not going to weigh down at him all. He's gonna go home because he's happy outside of poker. You know what I mean? And he'll be able to move forward from that. It's simple.
Mhm.
We've
It can,
recently
st- it
talked
can,
about. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
it can still sting. I still think about it on the drive home, like you guys.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you gotta be,
naturally.
you got to learn to just set it aside. Just let it go. That it's all one big session. So don't feel like I'm buried in this session. I got to get it back.
Mhm.
Even
Or
though that's not how I did it when I was younger, because I would play till I got unstuck, even if that was a day or two. But every once in a while, you just get buried. So
Yeah.
a lot
yeah.
of my sessions were winning sessions. I'd have like 20, 30 winning sessions in a row all the time, but then I'd have one or two big ones here and there. But I wouldn't recommend that.
What's the longest session you've played?
3 days exactly. I kind of like,
Straight.
yeah, and it's easier to do in limit. And there were like no drugs or Adderall around or anything. It was just adrenaline. And like I may have nodded off a few times at the table.
Wow.
But when I was younger, I used to play those long sessions where like I'm getting my
72 hours?
yeah, I'm getting my money back, or you're getting me good, like one of those things.
Wow.
Wow,
You
man.
weren't kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, that's gotta be wow. I can't imagine how you would feel. I've never the longest I've stayed awake at any point in my life might be 24 hours. So to stay awake for 3 times that is absolutely insane.
when I was younger, I could do it. Now, it gets like 10, 11 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I don't.
Yeah.
It's tough. And
Dad
I don't.
life, man. You gotta wake up early and
Man, I'm glad I asked that question. It's 3 days?
that's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, a lot of coffee and just grinding. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Richie, we got some Discord questions coming up here shortly. Before we get into that, is there anything that you would like to, any topics that we missed or, that you'd like to bring up that we haven't talked about yet?
I mean, I think we covered everything pretty good. I'll let you know. I'll think on that, and if anything pops up, I'll let you know. But you could hit me with a Discord question
All
or
right,
two.
cool. All right. Well, you might know some of these people. You might actually, we'll stick with most of the Discord names here just for privacy reasons, et
Sure.
cetera. And plus, most people in our Discord will know each other by their Discord names. So, one person that his Discord name is actually his real life name, Mr. Paul Carney, the tournament player from Canterbury. I'm sure you
Yeah, I
know
know
him.
Paul real well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We'll start off with his question, and he wants to know how you always stay on your A game. He has a lot of respect for you. He was saying that in the Discord chat. He's curious how you maintain again the mindset of just being at the top. Always bouncing back, not tilting, not punting. Um, yes. How do you stay on your A game?
I mean, everyone's got their different routines, and it's helped to build up a bankroll and have that cushion of comfortability. So I'm not like in a pressure spot where like I can't handle it. But for me, it's about routine. Like, just, I don't go out and party or anything like the night before. I like
Mhm.
to get up, go to the gym before I work out, eat healthy, get up and stretch a lot, and just like, stay focused. Maybe I don't do anything like super special. It's more so after the tournament, I'll like review the hands and stuff like that. But I've just been playing so long that like I just
Yeah,
I just, as long as my body feels good and I'm like my mind's clear, that's the most important thing. I think
yeah,
you touched on this like in a different episode, but like if your mind's not clear and you're not feeling good, maybe you're having problems in your relationship or some mental health issues or whatever. I just don't play, just
Mhm.
wait. There's always the next tournament.
yeah. I think that will definitely improve your game. And like you said, I mean, you clearly do a lot of the things that Wes and I had mentioned on our mindset episode already. It seems like you're already there. So that's awesome to hear. Our second question, given to us by Cold in MN, so Cold, Minnesota. What helps keep you humble and focused with all of the amazing results you've had so far?
I mean, I've just been through so much upswings, downswings. What keeps me humble?
I mean, that's a great answer already. Like when you go through those ups and downs, and if you're honest with yourself throughout them, you'll essentially, not to answer it for you, but yeah, I think,
Yeah, for sure. And like, poker is one of those beautiful things where, you're your own boss and you get the freedom to play and when you want and then just have the time off. That's why I love tournaments. You can go grind the tournaments for a weekend and then you got a week with the fam, do whatever you want.
love
So
that. Yeah.
yeah.
And one thing I wanted to mention, not kind of on topic with this, as while we are playing golf yesterday, and I know I've heard this before, but just something I kind of wanted to reiterate that I'd forgot about is you had said poker is the hardest way to make an easy living.
Mhm.
True story. Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, but at the same time, it's like I went over before, like it's tough to beat, the rake, the taxes, the expenses. It's not easy. So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I
yeah.
I actually had kind of one more comment on that question. I think when poker is something you're doing full time, you just look at it in such a different from sort of a different perspective than the recreational player. Like if you're doing it full time, you need to make a certain amount. So it's already kind of built in that you're going to have good results or else you're not going to be able to do it, right? And then on top of that too, it goes back to the downswings not being as public as the big positive results. And so like sometimes people, maybe if you've gotten a pretty big score in a tournament, people are like, "Oh, Richie, you're crushing it." And you're like, "Well, I in your head you're like, "Okay, yeah, I've been on a big downswing before." So it doesn't always feel like you're crushing it when you are from any
The,
normal perspective
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, just kind of a little add on there.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah.
the next question from Discord, username Wooks. Did you play the whole WSOP last year or just select events?
I only played no limit events and I broke it. I normally like to break it up into like 2 or 3 trips, because when I was younger, I could stay out there the whole time, and
Mhm.
I've probably been to like 8 to 10 WSOPs now. And I remember when I first went out there, like I brought $5,000 with me is what I had at the time. It was one of my first
That's
trips. And
exactly how much I brought on my first time.
yeah, and I made it last the entire time. And that kind of like
Oh, that's
the
good.
entire time, yeah. And I played a lot of tournaments. I didn't really know what I was doing in tournaments. I was kind of just like trying to
I made
figure
it
it
last
out.
a week.
But yeah, but like I would grind the cash games, and I was kind of a cash game crusher. So I'd win in the cash 1,500 or a couple dimes, go play an event, and kind of just break it up like that. But I remember that series specifically. Like I was out there like 60 some days off a 5K bankroll, and that covered hotel expenses too.
That's insane,
So
Wow,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah, that kind of
yeah,
goes to
that
show the importance of being able to use cash game to help with your role.
definitely, yeah. And like, back then it was like, pressure was on, like if I go bust, I'm just going home. But
Mhm.
but the pressure is always on to get a score, like it's
Really?
always there. It never I mean, it's not like if I don't get a score, I'm in trouble or whatever, like I'm good, but like I always have that like pressure, like I'm like, it's time to get a score. Like I want it, I need it,
Yeah.
gotta have
We
it.
we need that though, and I'm glad you brought that up. And I think that's because, like, if things are too easy, you're not hungry enough for it, so then you won't receive or reach the results that you want. Like, that, creates hunger for us.
Yeah, I've always wanted to just prove it to myself and then, like, just to, like, my parents, because you'll be like, "Yeah, I'm gambling for a living." Your parents will be like, "You're what?" Okay, pressure's on. Like, gotta show them that it's worth it, like, give mom
Yeah.
an allowance, like, get the money. So
Yeah.
Okay. And next question in line here, we got DJM. Wanted to ask. So, also wanted to congratulate you as it aligns with this question here. You recently, about a month ago, won the For the Love of Money. I think it's a $500 Running Aces event for 44ish grand. Is that right? Last month.
Yep. Yep, that's right.
He was at your table. He was not involved in the hand, but he wanted to ask you about how, or if you could talk about your Jack High call in that tournament. That was correct.
Yeah, I remember that one, kind of. I don't remember exactly how the hand went down, but, it was against a buddy of mine, Matt Fox. He's a great dude, shout out to Matt.
Oh,
But
Matt Fox. Yeah. I love
yeah,
him.
yeah, he
I
plays a
don't
lot
know
with
him by name, but I probably know him by face. I'm terrible with that though.
yeah,
Anyways,
he crushes, like, the dailies and
The
stuff, but
dailies.
he's
Yeah.
got a really unique style of play, but it's, like, one of those things when you play against a buddy, you kinda know what he's up to a little bit, and it was just kinda obvious that the way he played it, that he had, bottom or he had, like, a pair, but it was, like, a deuce, deuce, 5, but the way he played it, I was like, "He's got a 5 here," and then it came, like, running nines, and I think I had, like, a 10 jack.
so he was counterfeited or something, is
Yeah,
what you're
so he got
saying.
counterfeited on the river, and, like, he would've probably just, like it was one of those polar situations where, like, he has it, or he
Yeah.
doesn't. He's gonna be
Yeah.
worried about me having a boat, if he's got, like, an overpair or something, so I
He's not
just
going to
kinda
bluff with king high, probably. Like,
yeah, it was just it's one of those things where I, like, sniffed it out, like, he's gotta bet this to win it, like, if he had, like, ace high, he's gonna knuckle, even king high, maybe,
How confident
so
did you feel making that call?
pretty good, pretty good.
I love
I was
that.
I was like, I'm pretty sure jack's high is good here, like, if you got it, you can take it.
I think it's
Well, it
important to
wasn't
note. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I wasn't I didn't, like, know for sure, but I just, kinda sniffed it out and
Well, you
just
never do, but you went with your intuitive feeling, your gut, which I think is built from years and years of experience, right? So you've been in these spots so many times, and like you said, you've seen showdowns so many times that you that's all you need to have the confidence to make a call like that.
it's
that.
fun. It's fun when you can make the jack high call around.
I love that.
So this actually, Richie, this reminds me of the first time you and I played together, and we hadn't met. I don't know if you know who I was, but I was at least aware of who you were. It was day two in at the Michigan MSPT, I think October of 22. And we were at a table with Dan Bekovac, who's, he's won MSPTs, but he's a maniac also.
Yeah.
Player. He's a
He made,
maniacal player, not
yeah, 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 to be clear. And anyways, so I don't know if I know I had a decent amount of chips, but I just remember you had opened and I had called in the big blind. I had like Jack 7. I don't really remember the run out, but it was like a queen high. It got checked down until the river. And I, I guess I sort of felt like you're a field player. And so I put out a small bet with Jack high just as a bluff because I'm like, people don't when people do this, it's a pair. If I bet big, he'll feel like it's a big hand
You're
or a bluff.
exploiting him?
I thought so. And then
How do you feel
Richie,
about
you
that?
just kind of like sized flicks in the call and you were ready to muck your hand. And I just, I always just tabled a bluff. I showed Jack high and you showed me like king nine offsuit, king high. And I was like, oh no, I messed up. Like I should have actually bet big. But I think that was to me, I was like, oh, that was a math call in the sense you're like, you only have to be right maybe 20%. And you were probably pretty sure I had something, but do you remember
I
that hand?
I remember playing at the table, and I remember that hand. I don't know if we had met at that point, and it's
We
probably
we hadn't. We
it's
hadn't.
it's probably a good thing that we hadn't, because I would've been like, "Oh, he's got it here," if I would've known you.
Interesting. I when you made that call, I kind of felt like you were giving me credit in the sense that like I was capable of bluffing for that size. And I remember we went on break right after that, and I was like, that was so stupid. Like I could have bet, a big size, and of course he's folding
I
things
like it
away.
though because your logic was which is correct. Richie's a good player. He's a thinking player. He'll think that I have a small pair here, but I mean, while he can think that, I mean, while he is thinking that, he's also thinking he's bluffing enough here to where my odds are too good to not to just
Yeah.
fold. So you got owned. Well done.
Yeah, yeah, that was annoying. Yeah, no, we hadn't met yet. I don't know if you had moved back to Minnesota, but it was after you'd won your bracelet. I had heard people talk about you, and a lot of times when I'm in that situation, I don't necessarily like if I have maybe a tiny bit of knowledge about you, I don't want to give you the knowledge that I have any knowledge about you,
Yeah,
right?
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so
I think kind of staying on topic of hands we played together. Richie, you and I have been playing together for years now. We've sat at each other's table many times
For
over
sure.
the years. I can't recall one time where we've actually had a huge entanglement. Can you?
I generally just don't tangle with other good players.
That's
Unless,
fair.
like, you
Yeah.
kinda have it, like, in general, so it would make
I,
sense that I didn't
I do
splash.
remember recently I trapped you with aces and you're like,
I specifically remember that hand you tricky.
did you have it? Or did
I
you have
think
anything
I
that I'm not did you
yeah,
have
no, I
hands?
think I don't remember the hand exactly, but it feels like I had, like, top
Yeah, it was like
pair with,
a
like, a
I
queen
think it was
or
a
something.
jack I don't remember it specifically either. I think we were maybe in day 2 of a tournament, if I remember correctly. You had opened maybe cutoff-ish area, hijack or cutoff. I flatted small blind with aces, and then flatted a jack high flop, and then you double barreled, and then I jammed the turn, and you were just kinda, like, confused, and then you looked like you made a big fold. I think that sounds something like that.
For sure. I remember I had, like, top or something.
Okay.
It just didn't make sense, so you played it really tricky.
I tried to, and then
It's like,
I
that
told
makes
you I had
sense.
aces, and then the next time I saw you, you're like, "You motherfucker, you trap."
You played that one really good, yeah, I think you got max value on that one.
Alright, well, anyways, what do you have, Wes?
yeah, so the last Discord question from Leopin, and I think some of this has been covered, but there's one part that I think we haven't. The question is, how do you prepare for tourneys, studying, and how do you adjust for different tournaments? And that last part about different tournaments, that's
Yeah,
mostly what I think we haven't covered.
For sure. So, like, I don't know, I'm gonna play, like, a WPT or, like, the main event, obviously way different than I am, like, the 800 deep stack or, like, the locals.
yeah.
I might get after it a little bit more, especially, like, if I don't make it by day 1C, like, I'm gonna kinda go after it.
Just to clarify, are you talking about in, like, the local ones and stuff
Yeah, the
like that,
local
or
yeah,
okay,
like the local one where, like, where the structure's faster, and, like,
okay.
I generally try and get in on 1 bullet, but, sometimes you have to kinda, get after it and try and get that stack, but, yeah, like, I don't know,
I think
um
that's a good answer right there. I mean,
Sure.
the structure kind of defines how you're going to play. So, I mean, in a nicer structure, maybe where it's especially where it's like a single or one single rebuy or something like that, or a freeze out for that matter, you might tighten your ranges up a bit and play a little bit more of a solid game from the get go. To whereas something local where it's unlimited bullets and a smaller buy-in with a turbo or structure, you're just kind of fire away to try and build up a stack for day 2. Is that kind of a line?
For sure, yeah, and it's not exactly how like, I don't prepare too much, but, like, for me, it's about, like, when I get to the table, it's about like, it's an information game, right? So, like, I used to like, say, for example, I'm playing a cash game, I used to, like, love to come in talkative, dark rays under the gun, rounds of drinks, let's get it popping, like, that would be my style, like, that's
Mhm.
how I got the game good and the game going. But nowadays, I play a little bit more, stoic and kinda just, like I like to gather information and just, like, study the play you see a lot of players on their phone at the table.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Even some of the best players in the world, like, they're just sitting there on their phone,
not
and
pay
it's like you're
attention, right?
losing out on a lot, like, a lot of calls I might make are, like, based upon a hand that I saw play earlier, the way someone's like, say someone's, like, tilting or whatever it
Yeah.
may be, like, it's just but long story short, it's just important to, like, always just studying. It's an information game, and, like, guessing if they have it or not, so, you just wanna pay attention at the table, stay off your phone. That's
That's
what
a resolution that Wes and I both have this year is to, I mean, I understand it can be boring. It can be hard sometimes when you're sitting there for 8 to 12 hours in a single day playing a tournament, right? But like you said, there's so much information that you're missing when you're not paying attention all the time. I mean, like you said, if they're tilting, the kind of calls you're making, like that's a huge one. Like if people are getting to showdown and they can see what kind of calls you made throughout that board, that's so much information that they're missing out on for future, for when they play a hand on you and might have somewhat of a similar texture or see how you play flush draws, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, if you're a balanced player, which you are, and things like that, they can trick you with that kind of stuff, right? But um, still, nonetheless, it's information that can be very helpful too. So, great point there.
Definitely, definitely.
I got a question myself that is it's definitely off topic, but it's a question that I've been hearing going around lately. Um, and you might be somewhat biased being a WSOP bracelet winner yourself here, but what series between the and I let me actually preface this one more time is that I know you've played WSOP and you also play WPT events. Which events are more prestigious to you?
I mean, I don't think it gets any more prestigious than winning a bracelet, but a WPT title is like right up there. Like my dream is to have like one of each,
Yeah.
at this point. Like that would be pretty cool.
Is there
Um,
is there a triple crown for you? A third series that might be the triple crown that you would like to win?
um, you know, MSPT or like a circuit, so
Okay.
And you do have
nothing.
an MSPT.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it
My
would
boy's a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Rich, I want that damn Hall of Fame trophy. That thing is
you
sick.
gotta you gotta put in the work to get that one. It's important to like kind of try and hit all the stops. And I just don't have time to hit all the stops anymore. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's cool to, to check that one off the box as a gunner.
Wes,
So
any other questions you have here before we kind of start wrapping things up?
Not much else that I had, no.
Okay. Richie, did you come up with anything else?
yeah, I did. So I got a question for you guys.
All right.
So it's actually a hand review. I just kind of curious about
Yeah.
how you guys would do in this.
Okay. This is
Uh,
new. This is new
I
for
love
us.
that. Yeah, let's hear it.
yeah, just a few recent ones. It's
I'm all in.
nothing special, just a couple hands. Recently in the WPT millions, so I made a little run. I think it was, I don't know, it was deep or whatever. There were like 235 players left to be exact, and I think the blinds were 30K, 60K. So you got 12 big blinds,
Mhm.
720K stack, eight-handed table, pretty good table. There's some pros, but there's like a couple soft players. You look down at two sevens under the gun,
Mm.
Okay.
12 big blinds,
And how many players left again?
235.
Okay.
I have my initial thought is min raise.
Yeah,
And then go ahead.
it's just on the cusp where like I don't think it's too different between just open jamming and then or just min raising. Sevens is kind of a gross one.
Under the gun for sure.
So I will actually say specifically, I remember a spot, and this was on like a day one, but I remember a spot where I had sixes and I had like 13 bigs under the gun eight handed. And I remember looking at on the charts afterwards and it says you can either min raise or go all in. So I would assume this is kind of in the same category.
A couple of thoughts that come to my head. Sorry, did you want to further on that? A
Go
couple
ahead.
thoughts that were coming into my head, Rich, here is that like with sevens under the gun, 12 big blinds. I mean, I guess something important to take into consideration is kind of how the depths of how deep the table is, behind you, like if most people are sitting on 40 to 50 big blind stacks, or if you have a lot of fold equity with your 12 big blinds. Do you remember?
It was pretty spread out, but I remember I was one of the shorter ones at the table. But like if I get a double up, I'm like at the top.
Okay.
Like, you know,
Okay.
I
so
think yeah, go ahead.
it was a tough spot. What would you guys do?
It's a very interesting spot for sure.
I maybe lean a little towards all in just because with sevens, you're not looking to induce a jam from like ace jack. Like you would prefer, let's say someone in mid position has ace jack, you would prefer to just get the fold from that. Obviously, if they call, it's fine. But regardless of if you min raise or go all in, the people in position at the very least will probably fold smaller pairs anyways. It's not
Exactly.
one where And or maybe not. If you think there are players who would fold pocket threes to a jam, but put you all in with a against a min raise, maybe you try and induce that. But I would lean more towards jam because I don't think you're trying to induce a
I think
jam.
I would lean more towards jam most of the time. I think in this specific scenario, I could also see myself raising with the intent of calling off opponent dependent, or also folding opponent dependent.
Mhm.
If I have some reads on the players at the table that I think are exceptionally tight, and then they go over the top, then I might just then continue on with my 10 big blinds, right? I think there's something to be said about having 12 big blinds and min raising under the gun in terms of how that range is going to be viewed. I mean, it seems very nutted, right? So, another thing to take into consideration is this being a WPT. You're deep in the money at this point, correct?
Yeah.
So, I don't think that either min raising or going all in is wrong. I think both can be correct. I think being at a WPT tournament life might be a little bit more valuable than saying we're deep in the money of 350 daily at running aces or something like that, to which I'd probably just say I'm all in and try and run it up from there. But yeah, I'm curious to see what you did here, but I kind of like in this spot min raising and then reevaluating. I do understand like Wes said, you just jamming, you might get hands like ace jack to fold and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
it could go both ways. What happened?
So I jammed it, and I came to the conclusion that it's very close, but like if I had sixes, it's probably even just a fold.
Yeah, I
It's just
100
kind of
yeah,
like a really right on the edge, but I came to the conclusion it's just a ship, but it's very
Yeah.
close. I shipped it. The guy to my immediate left snap called and or snap shipped, and he had two jacks.
okay.
And he
Yeah.
was the guy that ended up taking second in it. We had similar size stacks at the time, and then you just start thinking like, man, if I just, well, it's funny. A lot of time in these tournaments, it comes down to just one hand or one mistake. So,
Mhm.
Yeah,
you
Yeah.
really got to just like try to avoid those mistakes, and
or maybe not even a mistake, and I like we were talking about, I like you said, first off, you're on the line,
yeah,
I mean, I might just fold sixes under the gun as well. How do you feel about that?
Close. I mean, I would definitely fold the smallest pairs. Sixes is I mean, it's not yeah. I don't look down at sixes there and get excited about it. I probably open yeah, it's very similar. I probably fold like fours and maybe fives. Sevens, I mean, we didn't even bring up folding. I wouldn't really consider folding sevens, but yeah, as it played out, like if you min raise, if it's the guy to your direct left, so he's under the gun
And
+1, if he three bets you, that's a spot where you can get away from the
yeah,
sevens.
you might just be able to just save your tournament life because his under the gun range of jamming over your under the gun open on 12 big blinds is going to be even more tight considering your perceived range of, under
Mhm.
the gun. So it just might be an easy fold for you at that point. Don't hate it either way though.
Yeah.
yeah, very close spot. I was curious what you guys would do there.
I have never played a WPT event, Rich, but I very much look forward to it. I would love to see them come somewhere in the Midwest, but I might have to make a trip to Florida or Vegas for that.
I'd
Did you have
highly
any more
recommend.
hands?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'd highly recommend if you're gonna try one, the WPT Florida one is an amazing event.
Sherpo, right?
Yeah, they have 4 events a year. I think 2 of them are WPTs, but,
Okay.
best
Okay.
cash games in the country, everything checks all the boxes, the food.
3,500 usually, right?
That one's 3,500. They have all sorts. They have, like, those $400 and $600 events that guarantee $1,000,000 with a bunch of flights. Like, those ones are really good value because they get, like, 300K up top for, like, a 4 or 600 buy-in. Um
Yeah. I was browsing your Hendon Mob actually for in preparation of this conversation and noticed you had got, I think, 11th in one of those.
Yeah, yeah. You
Anything
guys want
exciting to mention about that run?
well, I didn't wanna tell a bad beat story, but,
Let's hear it. No, it's okay. We did Hey, as long as we inquire
this
about it and you don't tell us out of
okay.
looking for sympathy.
I don't mind. I'm not the guy that's like, "Don't ever tell me a bad beat story," but it's like, let's review the hand a little bit more so. But, yeah, that one was a stinger. I was like chip lead with like 60 left, and then I lost a huge pot. I kinda played a hand big. A guy, limp back raised me, and I pumped it up big out of the big blind with ace king suited, and like that was the time where just get away from a big one. But I was kind of in the mindset like I'm not folding ace king, let's go. But that's one where I could have sniffed it out. But anyways, we're 11-handed, so we're 5-handed on our table, 6-handed on the other. I pick up 2 sticks, and then me and this guy getting like a raise battle. It was like he 5-bet shipped on me, and I was 2 in chips, he was 1 in chips with
Yeah.
11 left. So a big spot. It was the biggest WPT in the history of the WPT. There were like almost 2,600 runners, I believe. But yeah, Jack in the window. I had the 2 red aces and it was all red. So I was just praying. I'm like diamond ace, and then that was that. But
That was that.
anyways,
Okay.
yeah, that hand happened. But that was a big spot because first place is like I think right around 1.2 or 1.3.
You got 11th place for $111,000. I could only imagine how exciting that run was, how much money you were fighting for there. Like, that's absolutely crazy. And that was when was that?
2019 maybe? No,
2019. Okay.
maybe it was last year. I
It
don't know.
actually, it looks like 21, April
21. Okay.
21. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And that's why I say, so, I mean, sometimes it comes down to just one hand, the guy that's the champion that won it all, and then the guy that you never heard about. Sometimes it just comes down to that one hand or that one beat. So it's just a funny thing the way poker goes. So
You
it's
know,
like,
yeah, I'm looking at it. It looks like Breck Shutton won that event. I've actually seen him on some high stakes streams, I believe. I've definitely seen
Yeah.
him before. I'm familiar with
He's
him.
he's a bracelet winner, and I played with him a bit last year. Yeah, he's at least a bit in the high roller scenes when it comes to the World Series. I don't
Yeah,
know if
that's
he's
where I think
grinding
I've
it
seen him is on
super hard, but yeah,
WSOP streams is probably where I've seen him. He definitely
yeah.
looks familiar. Any other hand histories you wanted to run by, Rich?
yeah, I mean, there's so many that I could go. I just kind of picked 2 random ones from recently. This one, is from the 400 monster stack at Canterbury that just happened.
Okay.
Okay.
Curious what you guys would do. I think there were like around 40 players left. Blinds were 6K, 12K. I'm at a 216K stack.
We got
And
18
yeah, like
bigs.
18 or 19 bigs, I think it was. So middle position raises, middle-aged guy, kind of like, maybe tight scared player,
Okay.
player with the same profile, flats right next to him, the 30K. He has like 300K. I'm in the cutoff and I look down at 2 6s. So I'm looking at like this would be a big pickup here. It'd pick up like 50% of my stack. I'm just curious, what's your guys' hand range in the spot, and like what would you do with, like a hand of
So
sixes?
so my default here is to fold.
100. Yeah, I agree with fold. I see. Here's my thought. The reason I'm not calling is because we're too shallow to set mine.
And it's a 2.5x.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's a larger open sizing. Your range is pretty much crushed by. I mean, being at what was the opening position? Early position by a tighter
it
guy.
was like middle position.
Okay, and he's a tighter scared player, so his range should be a little bit tighter. Then you have an opponent after him that called.
Yeah,
Um,
not too tight, but just kind of like
okay,
nervous,
Yeah.
kind of like an inexperienced player.
so with Wes, I think folding is going to be the best play here. I also can see, yeah, I'm not going to be squeezing here too often, although I don't hate it.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, I was gonna say my default is fold. In this
It's a big
sort of
pickup, like you said.
situation, yeah, I think calling is by far the worst
For
option.
sure. Yeah, that was never
Um,
an option.
yeah. And then jamming here, there's a little bit extra out there because it was a 2.5x raise and then the flat. So I think it depends a bit on your perception of both players. You might have a little more fold equity than you usually would here, which is nice if the guy who flatted is going to fold stuff like ace queen. Obviously, if you can pick up the pot without seeing a flop against ace queen, that's cool. But
Yeah,
he will also have a lot of stuff like
eights through jacks.
yes, exactly, eights through tens or jacks. And if you jam and the initial raiser folds, obviously you're not hoping to get called by him. If he folds, you're going to get called by those pairs most of the
And then
time.
you just find yourself in a less than 30% equity spot.
Yeah, I prefer the fold here. And not to mention, you know, you are only cut off. There are 3 more guys behind you. Not a, you know, they would have to wake up with a monster to call off your jam.
And full disclaimer, regardless, it sounds like you took the squeeze spot here. I mean, we do this, you know what I mean? Like you got to test the waters sometimes. So I don't absolutely hate it. Again, calling I think is the worst option. If we were 40 big blinds deep, all of us love set mining here, calling and
Mhm.
trying to flop a set and trying, getting that implied value in play. That's eliminated being under 20 big blinds. So yeah, folding or jamming, mostly
And
folding.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the flat was never an option, and I actually took the fold route.
Okay.
Mhm.
But and my thought process was like, it's a soft field, like my edge is just huge. I'd rather just kind of steal and pick up. Maybe I can cooler someone. If I get called, I'm toast.
Yep.
The guy that flatted probably is never calling, so I'm just kind of worried about that first hand. And
Interesting. Okay.
and yeah, and in these faster structured tournaments, like I do kind of believe like you kind of have to pick spots and just go for it. Like the money's so much up top that you kind of just going for the win. So,
I
like, I'm k
I'm
I'm
It's
yeah.
interesting because it sounds so you folded, but it sounds like you sort of think you should have gone for it.
I kind of, yeah. If I th I just that's where you kinda just dial it in and you're like, "Does this guy have it or not?" You try and really get a read on the guy, because if he's got it and he calls your toast or you're flipping, it's such a big pickup and, like, you just but, like, I felt
I
like
love
not
that you brought this up even though you folded. I was not expecting to hear that you folded here. I thought this might have been a spot that you took and you were curious if you shouldn't have taken it or not. So that was my initial thought. I love that you brought it up from a fold perspective, curious if you think you should take it as a squeeze.
And the what I would say is if you do think that the flatter, if we assume for a second that you are just correct that he's never calling, then I do like a jam better because it's like you just have the one guy to worry about and it's like the 30K is dead in the middle.
Yeah,
But
if
n-
you've seen the flat cold if you've seen the cold caller calling with hands like, 6-9
king,
suited and
king
things
jack off
king
or
jack off and
something,
things like that, and the only person you have to get through is the original raiser, then it makes
then I
it a
like
bit
a
yeah, then
jam.
it makes
But
it a better squeezer because once the original raiser folds, it's you pretty much got the pot down, right? You're not worried about both ranges.
Yeah, exactly, and just, like, you just wanna go for the win in these, so, like, in those spots, like, sometimes you do just wanna, like, jam. I feel like players that ship these, like, they do kinda just take those spots sometimes, but I took the fold route. I felt like my edge is just big in these tournaments, and I'd rather just kinda like, a lot of these tournaments, I've had 10 to 20 big blinds, like, the whole way, and then all of a sudden, like, the heater comes and you just blow up, and then the
mhm,
blinds are huge, so, like, you just win a couple hands, the next thing you know, you're chip leader, all you have to
Yeah.
do is survive, so I just, like I always just take what I'm given, like, I don't come in with the plan, I'm gonna play aggressive, I
yeah.
wanna end with this many chips, I just you get the cards and you just play naturally is always the way I always look at it, just play
And I
naturally
think yeah.
according to the cards you get.
I think you, being the player you are, you're able to find opportunities that other players aren't able to find. So, with that being said, I think a fold here is completely fine as well, knowing that there might be even more beneficial opportunities not far from there. However, like you said, being a 2.5x open and then a call and then the blinds, that's a huge pickup for an 18 big blind stack.
Yeah, it was really on the fence for me because, like, I play to win them, and, like, if I'm out, I'm out, that's fine, like, if I make it down to, like, 10 players, like, it really doesn't even pay that much more, so, like, I'm playing to win it, so I'm kinda looking for spots like this, but 7s were just kinda like, on the fence for me, and the guy ended up having queen, king, and the other guy had 10 jacks, so I would've just picked it up, but,
Yeah,
you know,
that's annoying. That's annoying.
So annoying to
yeah, but
see in
it
hindsight.
doesn't necessarily make it, like, a good,
Right.
to
Yeah.
play to win, so
I
Hindsight's 2020
I
though as
was I
well.
was sort of thinking that through, and if I had a pair, my cusp would be like I would definitely jam pocket nines here.
Just literally exactly what
Yeah.
I said in my head.
yeah.
And pocket eights is like
Borderline.
pocket eights is the gross one where yeah, I'm not entirely sure. But nines I'm jamming.
That's
Ace queen definitely jamming, probably ace jack.
that's so funny. In the $400 mystery bounty a few weeks back in Canterbury, I had this exact same scenario where opponent who had just opened the hand prior opened again from low jack. small blind calls and I'm in big blind with pocket eights. It's almost the exact same scenario. We're already in the money, but it's a bounty tournament. I guess that's kind of a
You're
difference.
getting called lighter.
I'm going to be getting called later for that, but I chose the squeeze with the eights there and about 18 big blinds. Actually, I had 16 big blinds. I got snapped by queens and busted, but very similar spot, although it being a bounty.
Right on.
Richie, I appreciate you bringing up those hands.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We
It
don't
was
often
fun.
get questions from our or from our interviewees, so that was super cool. Want to say thank you so much for taking this time to talk with us. I know our listeners will really enjoy hearing your thoughts about poker, your story, all that good stuff. Is there one thing I want to end on here? Is there anything that comes to mind that are a small tip or anything that you could provide to players that are looking to improve their game or yeah, just looking to generally improve their game, that a small tip that you could give to them that might resonate with them before we sign off here?
Some of the stuff I might have already went over, but like,
Yeah, maybe just
just
reiterate what's most important.
yeah, for sure. So just, be smart with your game selection, be smart with, your bankroll. Don't play above your means. Uh, Always choose like a solid friend group, you can discuss hands and just people you can trust, surround yourself with good, positive people. Um, maybe consider doing something on the side, like have a career, go to college, do something because you can always play poker and do both. You don't have to dive in, 100% and just play like professionally because it's a tough gig out there. You know what I mean? It's a tough one.
It is always nice to have a side income when poker isn't going your way.
Yeah, for sure. And then just stay off your phone. Just study the game, study the players, just work on your game, get out there and try new things. And yeah, just that's about it.
Richie,
Awesome.
Richie, you are the absolute man. We appreciate you so much. I want to congratulate you on not only your past successes, but your recent successes as well. You're starting off 2024 on a tear. You final table both running aces main so far, which is sick. I really hope that that carries forward into the upcoming MSPTs and the World Series for you. Want to wish you the best with the family and stuff like that. I totally expect for us to get out and rip some more golf balls this summer as well.
I'm in, buddy. Anytime.
I'd love to hear that, Wes.
Yeah, Richie, thanks for coming on. I really like a lot of the stuff that you talked about and think will be useful for a lot of our listeners. I'm sure we'll see you here the next upcoming weekends. Come to think of it, we have a tournament at Canterbury, and then are you headed to Riverside?
I may or may not go to Riverside. I'm gonna go to the Win on Friday to play the Win Millions, and then I'm going to WBT Sacramento, and then I'm gonna try to make the Iowa stops happen. And
Yeah.
then I really want to go to the Lodge. They got like a 3K coming up, little 2 mil guaranteed series, and I got some
Ooh.
buddies out there, so it'd be cool to go out there. Plus, I found a 1K Lodge chip in my pocket, so
Imagine that.
Just
I've
such a
always
poker
wanted.
player thing. Like, oh yeah, I found this random $1,000.
If
Like
you've been
most,
playing long enough, it just happens.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm kind of torn because they got the Cherokee event, the circuit event, and they always get like like 380 up top for that one,
that's huge.
and it's the same time as the Lodge. And I'm like, I've heard amazing things about the PLO cash out there, but I think I'm gonna, go support the Lodge and go out and see those guys. So that's about it. Just play a few locals and a few trips, and then get on the WSOP grind. So that's about it.
awesome.
Definitely wishing you the best of luck with all that. Dinner on me this time in Vegas. All right.
All right, sounds good, buddy. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I love that you guys are doing this. Like I said, Minnesota needed a good pod, and you guys are consistent. And yeah, I think everyone loves listening to you guys' pod, so that's really cool.
Thanks for the kind
Means a
words,
lot to
Richie.
hear.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day. Hopefully catch you soon, and we'll sign off there. Take it easy, buddy.
Later.